I mean, the kind of Planet of the Apes franchise has spawned sort of a variety of films across the kind of the past few decades. What do you think it is about this story and this world that has such an appeal to filmmakers?
I think that, as with any good genre story, the metaphor is so powerful. And you always want to do a genre story that has under the surface a story that has resonance and relevance. And I think that to do a story about intelligent apes, the conceit of Planet of the Apes is that the animals have taken over the planet, but the not so big secret is that we are the animals that took over the planet. And so looking into the faces of apes, we can somehow look into our own nature. And there's something very, very exciting about that and uncanny about seeing apes do things that humans do. And so it's a very, very densely rich world, and I think has a lot to say on top of everything else. I mean, even from the very beginning, Planet of the Apes has been a story that had tremendously resonant themes.
I mean, one of my favourite aspects of it is the kind of the fact there's no villains, there's no good guys. It's this kind of blurred line between the two. How much do you think that benefits the piece to have that sort of angle?
Well, it was critical. I mean, the whole, I felt that in Rise, that the story, because it was a prison movie, was in a way stacked against the humans, and you got to enjoy, to a certain degree, watching the humans get theirs. There's no ambiguity. When you see them on the Golden Gate Bridge, you are rooting for the apes. And in this story, I felt that because it was along the trajectory toward what happens in the 1968 film, where we know it becomes Planet of the Apes, not Planet of the Humans and the Apes, that there was an opportunity here, unique to this story, to explore that moment where peace might have been possible. And if you're going to explore that, then the only way to really do that is to have empathy for all the different points of view, because the story, given that we know how it ends, is really an anatomy of violence. And if you're going to do that, then you can't make there be any sort of stock or easy villains. You need to understand the perspective that everybody has, so you can watch almost like a slow-motion car wreck. You could watch this unfold, and you could see as we were pulled inexorably toward violence, and it starts to become a story that's really about the character's nature and our nature, about our struggle with the violence within us. So it was really important that you have empathy for all of the characters' points of view.
Well, I mean, I can't recall seeing a blockbuster, so to speak, with so rich in emotion and pathos. And I mean,
thank you.
I was just wondering, was it quite a challenge for you to kind of find that strand of intimacy amidst quite a grandiose setup, I suppose?
Well, no, I mean, to me, that's the interesting thing. I knew that the movie, because of what it was, would have spectacle. That's what tentpole movies have. But the essence of the story that I wanted to tell was actually an intimate story. And so I knew it was a unique opportunity, because essentially what we were doing, in addition to all of the grand spectacle and the strange, uncanny fantasy of seeing sentient talking apes, is we were also doing essentially a human drama. We just happened to be doing it with apes. And so that's all about intimacy. And the intention from the beginning was always to tell, from an intimate perspective, an epic story. And I felt that actually was what Rise had done, that Rise was very much from the point of view of Caesar, and that this was obviously going to be a larger kind of group of apes and a larger group of humans, and that was going to make the story larger, but that if we could filter it through intimate connection, that then you would have an emotional involvement. At least that's what I hoped.
I mean, one of the things that kind of enhances is, I mean, obviously the performance capture is kind of incredible. It seems to have evolved sort of 20 years in 5 or 6.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I mean, I was just wondering, are you able to, when watching this back, to kind of detach yourself from being so heavily involved and just appreciate it and sort of think, wow, this is incredible?
Well, I had that experience as we were getting it shot by shot. You spend a lot of time giving feedback and trying to work on the shots on a shot-by-shot basis. And then when the shots finally come in, you get to a place where you say, okay, is this final and is this or not? And every time we would final a shot, we'd look at the shots and go, this is quite amazing. And then when you're done with the whole thing, you look at it for the first time instead of in that shot-by-shot way. And then, again, you have this moment you go, oh, this is quite incredible what they've done. I mean, I pushed us to shoot in very realistic situations. I pushed us to go out into the woods and shoot in the rain and the elements, and we shot 90% in real locations as opposed to the last movie, which shot 75% on the stage, because I wanted to push that photoreality further. And Weta one-upped everything we wanted to do, because not only did they agree to do that, but then they rebuilt all of the rigs from the ground up, and they redid their hair simulation and their moisture simulation. So suddenly, the apes, when we saw our first ape shot come in, I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. Like it's a new high watermark, I think, for these kinds of effects. And Weta is the best in the world.
There's an incredible fusion of genres in this as well. I mean, there's a western, there's kind of sci-fi. You can just get a glimpse of all of those. And I mean, Gary Oldman said earlier that sometimes you shot it, but when you were directing, it was almost as though you were shooting a silent movie. How much do you think these influences have kind of informed the piece, and how do you think it benefits as a result?
I mean, completely. There was definitely there were many different filmic references, and I wanted the movie to begin almost like the Dawn of Man section in 2001, and that definitely affects it. And I wanted there to be parts of it that felt like Apocalypse Now and moving into a kind of tribal place. And definitely the whole conception of the thing, once we established that there were these two communities that were looking to find a way to coexist, was a kind of classic mythic Western. So all of those things, I mean, there are shots, literally, there's a thing where, Gary Oldman's introduction is a shot out of The Searchers. I mean, there are all these little things from movies that I loved and feelings that I had about kind of epic and classic forms that also could be played out with Apes. I thought that juxtaposition of something so classical that would be told with this kind of fantasy of apes in it would be a very interesting experience, and hopefully it is.
So just very quickly, there's obviously going to be another sort of entry to this franchise. You're down to direct and write the next one, is that
I'm going to write it with Mark Baumbach and direct it, yes. Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.